Hi, everyone. This is Amy Major with Spirit Rescue Talk. I have an amazing guest, Elaine Cheung, who I've known for some time now. She's a intuitive transformational healer, and I'm going to allow her to explain that to you a little bit. I did meet her through the Spirit Releasement work that we've both done together. She's an amazing advocate for the spirit release and also has done many other things to transform and heal people on an emotional, mental, and physical level that is far surpassing what a lot of Western medicine does today. But I'm gonna let her explain that a little bit on her end. Hi, Elaine, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
Oh, I had to have you on. With everything you do, we always have amazing conversations together. Why don't you tell people a little about what you do, a little bit about your background?
All right. So I'm a intuitive transformational healer. So I help people transform their subconscious limiting beliefs. And I've used a combination of many different modalities. Every single session is different, and it could be spirit releasement would be part of it, and then there's like inner child work. There's some therapeutic tools. There's energy stuff. I use something very specific on an energetic level called divine love, not just the universe's love. So I would like to talk about that in a bit. But how I came to my journey, it was that I actually was very left brain, if you want to call it, up to the age of 40, ran businesses, multi-million dollar businesses, never felt my feelings ever. And so, and the company was very difficult. This company was going bankrupt when I was brought in at 28 years old. And within 4 years, I gave myself rheumatoid arthritis because I have permanent damage right there. But it's just what happened was I didn't realize the pressure I put on myself and how I didn't ask for help in anything. I suffered through it, and I dealt with it, and I sold the company and retired at 40, so to speak. Um, but then my marriage fell apart, and that's when I went. It was really bad. It was a very traumatic time, and it was the first time in my life I asked for help. And I found this intuitive lady who taught me at the beginning. I had no idea about meditation or anything like that. So we started on this journey, and I was, because I took my determination of how I did business and I took it and swung it into personal growth. So I was very focused, and I did it once a week. I met her on Skype, and that's how I started my healing side. And then I started to pick up 10 million, all the modalities known to man. There was like Psych K and Quantum Touch and Terramai Sakim and, and all this stuff. And then started doing this healing thing. I volunteered for hospice. I got into hospice because I wanted to know if I could hold space for people who are going through
Oh,
such
my
a
pet's
traumatic
going
time.
off. You're bringing spirits into my house. I'm like, the dog and the fire. What's going on? I always knew whenever you come around, you're always bringing
Yeah.
whoosh.
Well, yeah. So I always like to challenge myself when it comes to pushing my personal growth to hear people hold space. Can I hold that space when they're going through such traumatic stuff? And I basically stumbled across spirit releasement work when I was seeing there was a client, and we were doing this. I was helping him do this breath work thing, and all of a sudden this totally different identity person came through, and it was a woman, a very sexual woman. This is a man. The client was a guy, and a very successful business guy, very CEO type of guy, and then all of a sudden this person comes through, and I didn't quite get what that was, but I understood it was someone else. And I basically said, well, why are you here? That kind of thing. Well, I've been with him for a long time. And this one was the one who gave him his stubbornness, his whatever it was. And when it left, he literally came out and said, I don't know who I am anymore. I have no idea who I am anymore. And that was, a pretty eye-opening thing when it comes to spirit releasement. But the funny thing is, it didn't dawn on me. When I was in my 20s, my first relationship was with this woman, and she was a a medium, unbeknownst to her. She was Chinese. She was just drinking all the time. And
Oh,
she had Lucifer come in, just so you know. She okay. So maybe I should tell. This is a very fascinating story. So I was 20, And then one day she dies, like just dies. And she's dead and there's no heartbeat because I was going to university biology, so I understand the whole, no heartbeat, everything. And nothing, nothing, nothing. I'm like CPR, nothing, nothing. Then all of a sudden she just sits right up and just alive, right? And I said, "Oh my God, I am out of here." Right? So she goes, "No, no, no, you can't leave. Let me explain. I said, "No, first of all, I need to call the ambulance." And then she goes, "Don't call the ambulance." I go, "No, I need to call the ambulance." She's like, "No, no, no." And I call the ambulance. Ambulance come get her like the oxygen mask, and they're like, "There's nothing wrong with her," and she's sitting there. And then they leave, and I said, "This is really screwed up. Like, I don't know what's happening." And she goes, "Well, I'm 1,355 years old," was what she tells me. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "I'm the angel of death." And I go, "You're the angel of what?" And she goes, "There are four angels. There's the angel of life, there's the angel of death, there's the angel of, I don't know, accidents in the weather. I cannot remember what it was, but she was the angel of death. And she dies at the age of 30 each time and comes back and does this job. And she is the longest serving angel of doing this job. Everyone else, whoever these individuals have, they've given up, retire, or someone else has to do it, kind of thing. So she could see Jesus, according to her. Okay. And then one night she goes, "I don't want to do this job anymore." And then she goes, "I see Jesus, he's leaving." And then so she thought she didn't have to see any of these spirits anymore. And next thing you know, she's like kneeling in front of this kitchen sink, just crying. All she sees is like the devil. And she sees it, she's Catholic. Mind you, her background's Catholic. So she sees like massive wings. The guy is like 10 feet. She goes, "He's still here." So next thing I know, he's in her. They come into her, and 7 years I was with her because she said if I left, she would die at the age of 30, and I would like to save everybody. So I said, "Okay, I'll stay." 7 years of like every night she would get drunk, and then they would come through. We would call him Lucifer. We just called him Lou. And then there was like Persephone and there was Hades, and they was like saying, "Oh, we don't, well, it was really sad, to go down there, and don't, we try to give them water, but they just want," like, it was this whole thing. So one time, like this really seething kind of like evil thing came through, and I don't know why, but I just knew to hug it and give it love, and then hated it and then left. So that was really my beginning of like exposure, I guess, if I,
Oh,
yeah, right?
throw it into the fire, why not?
So that was my 20 for 7 years. And then, so move forward. I don't deal with that stuff. My family upbringing was like not, no religion, nothing. Like my Chinese family, right? And so coming back to my 40 years old, my marriage breaks down, and then this client, blah, blah, blah. And the next thing you know, I'm getting all these clients. They would come and we're doing like, I basically channel like really high frequency and just help them transform their feelings, because their feelings are tied up to their soul. Like there's something wrong with it, their subconscious mind, if you want to call it that way. But it's like, what's the belief? That sadness is like, okay, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. And all of a sudden people would start saying, would start going, "Ugh," like, and I'm like, what is happening? I want to take a bucket and put it in front of them, right? And I'm like, "Do you want to go out in the backyard?" Like during like this whole session of going through childhood like stuff, and I would have them stand next to the bush outside so they can like go, "Ah," but it never upchucks. But it's like this thing was coming out, right? And I had this one client who, before the session started, she didn't couldn't see on her third eye level, and then through the session, she was like, "Do you not see that?" The whole, like, she could see it. It was like the veil just got removed, and she saw all the stuff, and she was freaking out in the room. She goes, "They're right next to your face." Like it was like the ring. It was like really bad shit. It was like right up to my face. And she goes, "Don't you see that?" And all I could sense it. I was like, "Just calm down. Don't listen." Just like, just keep doing the thing. And she
Right.
goes, "Can't get close to you because it's really close to your face." And she's like freaking out because she could actually see with her eyes open.
Yep.
It's like, right? And so It was like a horror movie. The way she did it, she at the end she drew the pictures out of those things. Like, she drew it on paper, and then after she left, I burnt it. But
She draw.
it looked like there were many different things, and at the end, I felt this thing on my back, like on my back, and I go, I can feel it, but I don't see. I'm a sensing kind of person. I said, since you can see, can you tell me what's in my back, right? And she goes, oh, okay, very interesting. It's like an insect looking like a grasshopper head, if we call it that way. Or was it the other way around? Maybe it was a face of a grasshopper head, or it was a grasshopper head with the body. Like it was like kind of like that. And she said, it's trying to go into your auric field, like with this thing, and it's looking at me like totally nonchalant, no emotions,
Right.
right? And it's just trying to go in, but I could feel the pressure, like it was but he couldn't. So then I said, okay, let's all help me. And just, have really bright light and love. And then it went away. So this is like the beginnings. Then I started doing research. I read the book by this therapist, Dr. You probably know him talking about. It was a thick book. It was called Spirit Releasement. It was very by a psychiatrist. He was
William
very,
Baldwin.
yes. So that was my first book that I read. It was
I got it here.
right. So I read 30 Years Among the Dead. Love that book. One of my favorite books. Then I happened to be on YouTube, and I find you on a podcast or some interview or whatever it was. And I was like, what's your name? And I found you. And that's when I was like, oh, I'll be very interested. It was during COVID. I remember this because I was like, okay, I've got a bit of time. And so I took you two courses, right? Your Spirit Releasement Advanced Training and something else, which I can't remember. But the point was, it was really good because you taught me, you opened up my perception and more about like the different types. Because before I met you, I had two clients. One of them, she old lady, her husband died, and she was just being harassed nonstop. She's being spat on by spirits. They were showing her pornography stuff. They wanted her to have sex with these things. And she was like, no, no, no. Her background is Catholic, Croatia, that kind of thing. But at this point, because I read the doctor, whatever his name is, so I always thought it was just spirits, like human spirits, like earthbound stuff, right? So I was like, do the thing where it's like, okay, talk to them, that kind of thing. But every time I go to her house, she goes, oh, they don't like it when you come over. They start to go quiet, right? And then I'll do the thing. They would go away, like they
My
just.
phone go off again, Elaine. What are you doing?
My amazing team is here, just so you know. They
Turn off all my stuff.
and I just could never help her get rid of it because I didn't understand there were different types, like you've taught us, different types of things. So the technique was you can't use the same. It was quite interesting. So that was one client who had that.
Did
And
it
so
help her? Did it clear
I
the
didn't manage to go back to see her. It was quite a bit before I met you and learned your stuff. So, but since then, since taking a course, and also I stumbled upon something called divine love, the divine love path. So I'm on a divine love path, which is, from what I understand, basically in 1890 something to 1915, there was a guy called James Paget. He was a lawyer and an atheist. Well, not really atheist. He was kind of Christian, that kind of thing, but a lawyer. And he, automatic writing, started channeling Jesus. So I happened to stumble. It's a very long story. I'm not going to go into. Stumbled upon it, got the book off Amazon, started reading the messages, and it's not just Jesus. It's like other ones and whatever. And the message was that there is two pathways. There's a natural love path and a divine love path. And the natural love path is our first parents, like we call them Adam and Eve, but their names are not really Adam and Eve, right? Where they were given, they are the perfect creation, the perfect human soul. Should we call it that way?
Mm.
So what I learned was that we have a soul, and then our spirit body is like a reflection when you're dead. It shows if you're ugly and old, a reflection of your soul condition, that kind of thing, and then your physical body, right? But the soul, they were created as the perfect human soul. Let's call it that way. And then divine love path is where the divine love is actually divine essence of God, the creator, who when you pray for it sincerely, it changes the makeup of your soul essence. So you literally changes you from that of a human to that of a celestial being. So it's like you no longer like it's not like poof like that, but it's like a slow process of like think of a river coming down, a stream, and it slowly streams down, and you pray for divine love, and you is based on intensity and your intention. Intensity plus intention equals you get more divine love, right? So it's like a slow change, and as it does it, it also changes, helps you align your material and emotional mind to work with the soul mind. So you know how you always like left brain, it's like, oh my God, ego. Look, should I do this? Like you're thinking all these things, but then there's the soul knowingness and the whatnot. How you feel, that kind of thing. So the more divine love you have, the more soul knowing you have. So it's you sense it, I would call it, not from here, but from down in the soul kind of thing. So I started incorporating the divine love into my healing process.
Wow.
And I've noticed a massive shift, like huge. I've not now have any clients who haven't gotten rid of anything. I've helped my clients include people who are suicidal.
Mhm.
Um, like literally, they're like released from they try to kill themselves, got committed to a hospital, come out, then their friends find me and say, can you please help this person? And they are hearing voices, for example, or they're haven't bathed. I had a client who hadn't bathed for like a week, haven't eaten. She just said, I'm going to kill myself today. And then I helped her release this old woman who was obviously died from like some neck thing. And then when she left, she could see her. Like my client, it's funny, all my clients who are not into, like, they don't see, but when this happens, they can all see. It's really weird. Like when they're,
Yeah.
right? So,
It
and
opens you up after you have an attachment. It
it's
really.
crazy. Yeah, it's really weird. Like I never, because I always say to them, oh, right? I don't have to tell you, I'm not making it up and going, okay, it's done now. But I sense it on an energetic level. They see it when it comes up. So after this woman left, she texted me within 45 minutes that first time I've eaten anything, I had a shower. It was like it was like that gross thing was off. So this stuff is like yeah, so spirit releasement is a massive thing of a lot of people, obviously, attachments are a massive thing, but also like you say, it can be thought forms, which I've noticed a lot of people have that too. Which is like
I would say a good half.
yes. Our it's amazing. I mean, if people understand an energy clumps together, the law of attraction, right? If you're like think negative energy, it literally finds a ball of the same stuff. It becomes this giant energetic field of, let's say I'm worthy. Let's just say is that one, okay? And it's like this giant cloud. Kind of is around the person or somewhere in the over there, that kind of thing. You could walk through it, you could feel it, you know what I mean? And then yeah, so it's quite interesting. It's two different types I've noticed now. Is like one's with consciousness, if you want to call it, or
Mhm.
brain, or control. And then ones that are like just pure, like you say, font forms, which are just needs to be that. So I use divine love now. Instead of just white light or whatever, I'm using God's essence is what I'm trying to say to use that. And but it's not me. I got a whole team. They're doing it.
Nice.
So I need to be very clear. I'm not the superhero here. I work with a team that helps me. I'm basically holding space. I think is the only way I could explain it. For them to be close enough to the subjects, whether they are in spirit forms or there's like a person who's in a physical form kind of thing, and they're doing the things right. Because honestly, they know better than me. But they do tell me what to say. I swear, it's like I go,
Comes right through. You're like, oh,
yeah,
that sounds
yeah,
good. Have you
right.
ever?
I had a client just the other day. She's like, you know how you taught me to do a 35, I call it a 35 layers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Remember I used the number system, right? Um, and then afterwards she goes, how do you know when they're each one is like, I go, they tell me. And but I think it's really deceiving when someone says they don't tell me. I just sense it in like huge like it's like a wave of energy when I say something. They go boom, and they say, and when it's no, trust me, and I've tried it every which way. I try to conjure up the same feeling, and I ask the same question different ways, and I try to get a different response, but it's very consistent, that kind of thing.
Well, the
Yeah.
thing is that vocal communication is the last form of communication we actually use. Our feelings, our thoughts, our senses, our awareness of what's going on around us is actually the way we communicate more than anything else. So if somebody says, oh, did you see it? Did you hear it? Those are secondary forms of communication. It's the feelings, the senses, the being aware, the intuitive knowing actually comes first, which most people actually ignore the most because we rely on all the physical senses.
Yeah, because we're so like human in that sense. We want mental tricks. It's like I call it mental circus, like entertainment for our mind to be able to see and hear. But the fact is, spirits can talk to soul. And then it has to come through our soul mind to make it through our emotional and mental mind to give you a picture or words if you want to say that way. So yes, totally agree that what you're saying. Yeah.
Wow. Now, working with the soul releasement, and you actually have spirits with all the cases you've had, I know a lot of people are going to be asking, but how do I know if I have an attachment? What are some of the signs that you see with some of the clients?
One of the easiest way is all of a sudden that person, your friend or you are totally different, like change. Maybe like one day you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired all the
Mhm.
time. And it's like, why am I so tired? Like that's a good sign right there. That's one type because they like to drain you. Another one is if someone, change personality, totally different. I've heard that multiple times. I have a friend who was like, all of a sudden she was like, said fear just on the floor. No reason why. If there's a no reason why, chances are you got something that came around to you. Yeah. I
Wow.
say that to my daughter too. Yeah.
Now, are there reasons why these spirits attach to these people? Are there common reasons, or is every case different?
Law of attraction, the universal law of attraction. So, I mean, unfortunately, most of us are born with limiting beliefs already, with beliefs, with baggage, let's call it, from our generational stuff. And then as we grow up, as you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, stuff happens. It doesn't, you don't have to say specifically trauma. Like I wasn't abused or I still have trauma, but it's like, it's relative to that person. So I think it's really a shame when people say, well, I didn't go through anything negative, so I shouldn't have anything. But the fact is, there are little things that happen in our lives that do affect us. And most people have a belief of, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable unless I'm doing something. Those are mostly the overfunctioners, which is me. I'm only lovable when I'm doing something. So I do 10 things at once, and then people will love me because I can do something. It's a very popular belief, but it's a terrible belief because then we burn out. Um, I am too much is another one. So all these beliefs, or I hate women. Women suck, because of their mom left them or their sister who beat them up. So they have this belief and they walk around these wounds. I really should call them wounds. So if when you were born, you were quite rounded in a whole sense of your soul. Like you were quite, except for your parents' stuff, you're quite whole. Let's call us like a ball. And as stuff happens to you, pieces of you start to energetic. I call it energetic split off. Like that's why I do a lot of inner child work, and we go back to that time and reclaim that child. So you become this amoeba shaped thing, and you're missing all these things. And then the more you miss and you meet someone, guess what? They are also missing the other stuff. So then you match. Oh my God, you fall in love. This is falling in love. Falling in love is when you fulfill one another and you collapse into a giant thing where you fill one another, how should I say? Like when you first meet someone, they love golf and you go golfing with them, and then 6 months later, you're like, I hate golf, and they have to go golfing for themselves, but you only did it at first because you wanted to please them, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Those are like things that we're not whole. Those are examples. But this is very important. I feel it's so important for people to do the personal growth work, to work on they've discovered, be humble, look upon themselves, take a look at what the limiting beliefs that they are holding, because you will keep attracting those things. Okay. For example, the woman who has the abusive husband runs away from him, but then finds the next partner who is abusive, and so forth, because she always has this belief, I am just not worthy. I'm not good enough. And then the guy, he also has the same belief, believe it or not. I'm also not worthy, but he beats her to prove that he is worthy. She's, so there's a equal, is a law of attraction. So if you wonder why you're in abusive things or shitty things keep happening to you, you got to look at yourself and think, what am I attracting? And be honest with yourself. And that's the starting point of, now you're taking ownership of your stuff. Now you can start your healing process. And nobody says it's pretty. I mean, there's a lot of crying when it comes to personal growth work. Um, but when you take responsibility and you start doing your stuff and you really, really work on it, I guarantee you, you will attract a whole different life. You're all of a sudden, positive things happen, loving, kind people. You're becoming more whole. So now you attract that same mate who is whole, and you come together like a powerhouse. Now you're both individuals who are creating this amazing thing. So I that's why I do what I do, because I want to empower people to say, you know what? Yeah, we don't have to live in that old way of like attracting bad things and not feeling good enough, and feeling pressure to be the strong one, but I don't, all these things that we're taught. And just be, we should just be free and be at peace with ourselves no matter what, even in the eye of the storm, when the world's falling apart and you're okay.
Wow. A lot about what you talked about, we call in Spirit Rescue soul fragments and detachment of soul fragments. And, whenever anything traumatic happens to someone, abuse, fear, anything that lowers their vibration frequency, they get these fragments that release as well. That creates the holes in their etheric body and their soul. And they're constantly searching to fill those gaps, but they're
Yeah.
looking for it outside themselves rather than to reestablish it within themselves again. And I know a lot of people do a lot of soul retrieval work. Have you ever done any soul retrieval work when you're doing attachment work?
I don't know what, if you explain it to me, maybe then I can, maybe I use a different lingo.
I
So
because I heard your guides, because your guides with me. I hear they said that you're doing it without knowing you're doing it. Because what happens is, quite often when souls step into the body and people get an attachment, they can also fragment an already weakened soul, and parts of the soul can fragment and be displaced from the body. So they're in the ethers, they're just wandering in a rest-like state, and it can fragment throughout various stages of their development or even into their adult life. So there, that void that people feel on the inside really creates more wounds, because they're now susceptible and vulnerable to attack because they have that void. So stepping in and doing a soul retrieval, which calls in all parts of the soul back into the person. Obviously, we want them to be cleared and healed at the best frequency as possible. So we always do it through the direction of their guides and their angels and their team on the other side to make sure it comes back into the full soul. That's where the soul feels full,
mhm.
complete, and clean again. But a lot of that is done automatically through the healing process of the person, through their mind, their emotions, the
Yes.
physical body, and the soul as well. So it is an automatic thing. Sometimes you have to do it manually by doing the soul retrieval work. So you're, like your guide said, you're probably doing it without realizing you're doing it, but you see a change in the individuals when you do release the pain and you
Yes.
bring in part of themselves that they haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
Is they have these memories that come back, That's why
Mm.
a lot of people lose memory because they
Yes.
take fragments and take the memories with them. And I remember doing solar tables of their child form coming back into their body, and like, and then their eyes just open up because it's like you have all those memories of what
Yes.
created that soul fracture. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. But being whole is really what we need to be. And thanks to you, we have a lot of people that are doing the energy healing work to be able so people can feel whole again as well.
Yeah.
Do you have any, what's your craziest story? I just, because, I love stories. Have you had anything where you're like, I can't believe this is happening, or I can't believe this is going on right now? I never would have believed it up until this point, other than your ex relationship, which I have to say was a lot to experience.
The one that like the horror movie one, that was an interesting client. Like she saw literally all of a sudden she saw herself on a swing when she was 5 or something, and a swing, and then it was like all of a sudden she saw everything goes on fire, just right across, like sweeps across, like a horror movie kind of thing.
Wow.
And then I had another client who, when the spirit came out, she just sat on the couch and she goes, "He's right there, right in front of my face. Never seen him before." And she goes, "Yeah, he's a young man and he's right there." And so they tell me it's I don't know, because I think because of that 7-year relationship, I've seen quite a lot. I've seen her fly up in the air, kick something in midair and fall down. Um, I've seen, yeah, so it doesn't really surprise me.
Is there anything anybody can do at home to help raise their energy or bring back,
Yeah,
wholeness themselves? And obviously, we want them to get some professional assistance, but is there anything they can do at home?
I do recommend, like, please research. If what I said about the divine love intrigued you, besides James Paget, who back in 1890, there's a guy right now in Gibson's, Vancouver. I'm in Canada, in British Columbia, and there's a little island called Gibbs. It's not islands on the Sunshine Coast, called Gibson's Island. And there's a guy called Al Fike, Fike, and he is currently channeling Jesus. And his messages are very similar to James Paget. I've met him; they're amazing. Him and his wife Al and Jean Fike. They've written books on Amazon, and I would highly recommend just take a look at it. It's short books, but they're channelings of Jesus, teaching about divine love and understanding the natural love. So my answer to your question is to ask for divine love to come into your soul. That will definitely raise your vibration, because as you ask for the essence of God to change the very soul makeup of you, a few things going to happen. Love can't survive in a place where there's darkness. So slowly, that shit will have to get removed. It is also the fastest way towards um, raising your vibration versus the natural love path, which is like the old way, like the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not. It's like mind training. The natural love path is, you can become the perfect human, but it takes a long time because you have to train your brain. So it's a very, like, I gotta deal with all my stuff, my limiting beliefs, but it's quite a slow way versus the divine love. Think of nerve cells, you know how you got nerves? The signal goes cell to cell, or does it jump from synapse to synapse? So the divine love would be like synapse to synapse. And
Mm.
yeah, so that's the fastest way. And also, um, if that's how for the last, I came into that about 7 years ago, the divine love path. And so my life is totally different than what it is. I have clients who I refer to divine love, and their lives are totally different than
Mm.
what they were. It's just, and so my answer to you, if they have attachments or they have things, and soul retrieval, divine love, pray for this divine love to come into their souls, change the very soul essence of them. And it's intention plus intensity gives
Wow,
you your results.
great equation there. How can people search out for you and connect to you if they have more questions about your services?
So you can come to, I have 7 different websites, all different things, just so you're not running for a White Rock Council.
Oh,
Yeah, there we go. But on a healing side, you can go to attunedhealthsolutions.com. You'll find me there. If attuned, ATTUNED, healthsolutions.com, you can get a hold of me. All my information is there. but I
And I'll
do.
have it listed too.
Thank you. Yeah, lots of stuff. Yeah, that's just one. I do this on the side, you know.
You're always like, you're not doing 10 things at the same time, you're just not working hard enough.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing all the things that you do. And I know with your growth and your expansion of consciousness, you're being used kind of as a channel
Yes.
of this divine love to help and heal so many people here on the planet. So bravo to you for everything that you've done, and you're putting yourself in a place of service. And we can't ask any more of that from you. All we can do is applaud you and and think that you're doing an amazing job. So thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you so much. Thank
And
you.
I'll keep referring people to you. Good.
Well, you know what? I said to my creator God, I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna be, I promise you, I'll be your conduit. You use me however you want me to use because I really want to help people wake up and have an amazing life while they're still here in the physical."
Right.
You
Amen to that. So thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for coming and watching today. And again, reach out to Elaine if you have any questions about anything she does, especially about soul releasement, or as I do, spirit attachment removal. We all do, we all serve, and we all work together as one amazing team. So thank you all of you for watching, and hopefully we will connect again. Have a great day.